Cult of the Lamb and Don't Starve Together have crossed over with each other's games, which I guess isn't too surprising considering Don't Starve at least has a history of doing crossovers, and on the Cult of the Lamb side of things we did get some neat additions. It isn't a crazy large amount of content for either game, but as a small appetizer for inevitable bigger things down the line for both titles, it does its job of being a nice, smaller crossover event. For one, Weber is available as a villager now, and like the other kinds of villagers you can change his colors, complete with some variant appearances that reflect his costumes, and Don't Starve Together. There's even some DST-themed decorations for your base that you'll automatically unlock after you find him. Unlocking Weber is surprisingly simple. Just keep catching spiders at nighttime in your home area, and eventually one of them will drop a skull that you can bury, which is a cute nod to how you unlock Weber in his original game. Weber's great and all, don't get me wrong, but the biggest addition by far has to be the inclusion of a Don't Starve inspired mode called Pentenance, which adds a hunger and exhaustion bar to your lamb, kind of like lambs in real life. Dying through either of these meters depleting is permanent regardless of whether or not you've turned on permadeath. You'll have to use a new save file for this mode, making it a good excuse to go through the game's very entrancing progression systems all over again, which might feel jarring at first because you don't start off with those super fancy heavy weapon attacks that we all welcomed with open arms in the Relics of the Old Faith update some months ago. Thankfully, it doesn't take terribly long to gain those abilities back. I especially love the sword's heavy attack because it really does help eviscerate clumped up enemies that are just really spongy. You won't be able to change the difficulty here like you can on a normal playthrough, so if you've got a decent amount of time in the game already, I'd recommend selecting hard. I have several hours in the Pentenance mode and I can confirm that even if it doesn't drastically uproot the game as a whole, it is interesting having to manage your 2 new meters on top of all of your cult members. Multiple times I've had to end a dungeon run sooner than I'd have preferred because the fear of permanently losing my save file was an ever-looming threat. And because I was too lazy to plant a bunch of crops, I was more often than not super low on food, which forced me to go on emergency runs where I'd basically just get enough materials for one dish so I could stave off starvation just a little longer. So yeah, in that regard, it replicates Clay's franchise, though I was putting limiters on myself. The debuffs from food also don't affect your lamb, thankfully, but he will do this animation, provided he doesn't enjoy it. By the way, the lamb's tent he uses to sleep looks rad. Pentenance mode's new additions might come off as tacked on for some, and I don't fault anyone for thinking that, but personally I feel that Cult of the Lamb is at its best when you're not only dungeon delving, but doing that in service of dozens of smaller problems you're trying to remedy at your base. Adding 2 new things on top of that just gives me more fun things to juggle, and again, it was a really nice excuse to just go from nothing to something again in this world. There's also new tracks for the Archbishops, and they are fantastic as you'd expect from composer Riverboy. Seriously, Cult is a beautiful game, but by God, if the soundtrack doesn't try to be just as beautiful on an audio level. Between the heavy marketing, adorable visuals, and fantastic music, it's really no wonder Cult of the Lamb is a game that is fresh on a lot of people's minds, even if its initial launch was kind of bare bones. What about the Don't Starve side of things? Well, some stuff is immediately obtainable and others not so much. Just logging in will give you several lamb-themed cosmetics like the sword and a lamb plush. Other stuff like blueprints will have to be acquired by finding the lamb's crown and giving it to Antlion, which includes neat stuff like this lamb-themed statue. Overall, I'd say that Cult of the Lamb is the game that fared better in this crossover, as the Pentenance mode is pretty fun, and there might be a fair amount of players that haven't seen the great new additions from the Relics of the Old Faith DLC. By the way, huge thanks to my patrons and Discord subscribers. They're awesome. Feel free to join the Discord server in the description. We are trying to get to the 1,000 member mark before the year is over. I think that'd be pretty awesome. I'll have another video coming out before long, continuing my thoughts on the RPG Maker game, Lisa. I know a lot of you wanted me to cover the fan game Lisa the Pointless. Rest assured, it is planned, and I will be making a video on that game as well. In the meantime, thanks so much, and have a wonderful night. Booba.